Cool. So, Laura, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, Keith. How are you today?
Well, this is their third attempt at doing this. So let's see if this works. And so, welcome everybody. This is a LinkedIn live stream, Coach to Coach, with Dr. Keith McNally and Laura Van LaRusso.
Yes.
And today we're going to talk about emotions and how important emotions are when we're coaching somebody. And so we're going to start this conversation off from a piece of my book. And so this is Walking the Path, A Leader's Journey. And I'm in chapter 1 because I appreciate that, Laura. And just to kind of give our audience some insight. So this story is about a young man named John, and he's coming up on his 18th birthday. And he lives in a community, a society that really lives up to expectations. You're expected to be something, you're expected to do something, but all by and by, you're expected to be like everybody else. And so John doesn't really fit in. And some of his friends don't fit into that kind of mindset either. And so the valley, the community is in a valley and it sits inside, this range of mountains. And so the only way to escape expectations, metaphorically and literally, according to the book, is you got to cross over the mountain. And nobody's ever done that before. And so finally he goes to his mentor and he's telling his mentor, I've decided I'm going to go. I'm going to cross over the mountains. And Jose, his mentor, asks him, how do you feel about that? And he says, I'm uncertain about all of this. And Jose responds, uncertain is not a feeling. And that's what I, titled chapter 1,
Mhm.
because Jose really wants John to kind of tap into not only what he thinks and his strategic elements on what to do and how to be safe. He also wants John to be clear on why he's doing this. What is the emotions that surround the situation? What are his feelings surrounding everything that he's lived up to until this point that has brought him right here to make this really critical decision? And so in this way, Jose is acting as much as a mentor as he is a coach, which
Mhm.
kind of brings me to the question, Laura. When
Yes.
coaching somebody,
Mhm.
how important is it for you to help facilitate somebody's emotional responses as well as their logical mindset responses when you're interacting and having those conversations?
Well, first of all, thank you as always for allowing me to participate in this wonderful experience. I'm really enjoying it. Always, I say that because always it's true. And how do I help facilitate that sort of identifying your fear and then moving forward toward your goal? Well, we talked about what I do as a coach. We talked about why we coach. And the benefit of having a coach is that you can establish a relationship of trust, much like the characters in your book.
Hmm.
Jose and John trust one another. And how does that trust come? Because coaches sort of we push our clients to have those difficult conversations. And what are those difficult conversations based in usually? They're usually based in fear. Being in my case as an English communication skills coach, confidence coach. Yeah, I'm going to add it very soon. So in my case, the fear is fear of judgment,
Hmm.
fear of my not being able to um, use the right words in English correctly, fear of not being able to stand and deliver as a presenter in English because English is not the first language, and lack of confidence. So what a coach does is has that hard conversation one-on-one, much like your characters. And in that conversation, because it is one-on-one and because it is private and confidential, this client can feel assured that that confidentiality is respected. And the coach has the benefit of letting the client know I think maybe you have too many excuses. I think that maybe, for example, what did you say? Uncertain is not a feeling, it's a thought. Yeah, definitely. Our mindset, our feelings of uncertainty are more about how we're thinking about ourselves, right? Imposter syndrome and all that.
I
And
can I just
yes.
what you said earlier kind of is still of interest to me. We have people who are in need of change,
Mhm.
but are afraid of change. Because you mentioned the word fear. And I think that's one of the most critical emotions that people have to overcome in order. We could say we could write down a plan. Like we could write a plan. I could write a roadmap to get
Yeah,
from
perfect curriculum, perfect directional map. Yeah.
so to get from one place to another. But if that map, if the directions get me I have to go through someplace I've never been before, or maybe a part of the world that is not so safe,
Hmm.
I'm going to have some fear. And the same thing goes with, coaching somebody who they know they have to make change, and we were helping them to stay motivated to change, but we have to help them overcome that fear. How do we do that? How do we do that?
Well, I'll tell you a quick story related to that about fear.
Cool.
So there was, this is sort of my analogy, and I hope it helps. So when I was younger, I grew up in a generation where if they wanted you to learn how to swim, they just sort of threw you in the ocean. And
I can think
so
that's yeah, I think I've been there too.
right, right. So I just learned how to drown. Okay. I learned how to swallow a lot of salt water. And to this day, I tell people that I respect the ocean. I like the beach. I go to the beach, but I never really go all that deep in there. And then when I
Well, that begs the question, are you afraid of the water now?
so I wanted to overcome this fear of the water. I have still never gotten over my fear of the ocean, but I wanted to learn how to swim because I knew that it would be very beneficial for me as a person with cerebral palsy, a physical disability. And so I I got a coach, if you will, a swimming instructor, and I was 15. So I was 15 and 5'2" and like 110 pounds. Okay. Because everybody was young once. So anyway, he is this like 6 foot guy. And he says, well, the first thing we're going to do is you're going to get your face wet. Because I was terrified even of just being in the pool.
Hmm.
And after you learn how to breathe, then we're going to go to the deep end and you're going to jump into the deep end of the water. And I said, oh, no, no, no,
No, no,
no.
no, it's right.
Oh, I was scared. So what he ended up doing, long story short, is he said, okay, we'll do it together. Now, he was like the 6'2" monster guy, and I'm just a little 15-year-old scrawny kid. And he grabbed my hand and he said, 1, 2, 3, and completely picked me up off my feet and threw me in the water. Okay.
He
But,
he did he
but
not go ahead.
I was like, but the thing was, although he threw me in that water, which I said some bad words, and if my mother or father heard, they would have really gotten on my case about. But he threw me in the water in such a way that I was close enough to the wall of the pool that I could grab onto the wall of the pool.
Okay.
And once I had that experience, although I didn't appreciate the technique initially, he showed me that I didn't need to be afraid, that he would never put me in a position as scary as that was. And the same thing goes for coaching. As
Ooh,
coaches, we push you past your fear by sort of forcing you to deal with that through conversation, repetition, practice, um, discussion of feelings through diary and journal keeping, for example. Um, and 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 that those are just a few of the ways that we can push our clients.
so I liked the story
Mhm.
because even though you didn't say the word, you implied the word.
Okay.
Fear is perception. Fear
Yeah.
is how we perceive a situation And it may or may not be true. But when you're with that in the situation with somebody else, i.e., a coach, a mentor, friend, whoever, you have the benefit of gaining another person's perception of the situation. And they may see it entirely different. It's the same situation. It's the same set of circumstances. The pool doesn't change the same. The pool is the
No,
pool is the pool.
right. The
And
water's
it's
still 6 feet where
and
it
the
was.
water is 6 feet. But your perception of the situation and his perception of this of the situation were entirely different.
Yes.
And so he is looking at it from a very safe perception, very safe idea. This is not dangerous at all. And because I know it's not dangerous, I
Mhm.
want to help you get to where I am. So I like that. Even though he, I was really, to be honest, I thought he was going to jump in with you, but you said he
So
threw
did
you,
I.
but he threw you in.
It
Uh,
threw me in, but it's just a good analogy because it demonstrates how sometimes as coaches, yes, number one, I started off by saying we have to have those relationships first with the client, get to know them, get to know why they are with you, why they're seeking you out, what is the reason,
mhm,
and establish your credibility in terms of keeping things confidential and also proving that you care. Expressing your care and your empathy for your client is a good thing. After that's done, however, then we have to get to the hard part. We have to have the hard conversation or complete the quote unquote hard action.
mhm, mhm.
And that's what happened. And then I get so excited about this topic, so please.
No, go tell me.
So the other aspect that we touched upon during our previous podcast was doing things scared.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to do things scared, and I believe in that. I believe that when you have a certain need, whether it's communication coaching or confidence coaching or whatever the genre of coaching is that you're seeking, you don't have to do anything, it's your decision, but you can use your fear as as the thing that pushes you. As you mentioned in your book, facing that mountain
Mhm.
and having to face that mountain and climb that mountain. It's really up to you, and you can be terrified the whole time that you're doing it, but still try and still do. That's what I'm trying to say.
And I think you said it most perfectly. There, you have to live in that emotion. You have to live in that thought, but you can't let either your thoughts or your feelings overwhelm you or overcome you. Otherwise, you're going to be standing still and maybe even going backwards. And so that's not what we want. So, Coach Laura, I do appreciate that. Any final words of wisdom as we try to help people appreciate their emotions, but don't let fear take them away from what they want to achieve?
I think the best advice I can give, because I've experienced it, I'm sure you've experienced it at certain points, we all do as human beings, is um, give up the need for approval. And
Well,
it's not an easy task. You have to do it a little bit at a time. Why? And how can you do that? Why you have to do it is because if you're always looking for someone else's approval, you are never going to win because everybody has a different opinion. So if you go to a person and a person says, I think you present very well, but you should speed up. Okay, fine. And you go to B person and B person says, I think you present very well, but you should slow down. You can get all these different opinions. And if you're seeking all these different forms of approval, you won't get anywhere. That's one thing. The other thing is, it's really important to realize, I'm checking my notes quickly. It's really important to realize that judgment, um, it's similar to seeking approval. Don't worry about people's judgment of you. Now, that's easier said than done, but that's what a coach can help you with. Many of my previous clients have said, oh, sometimes I'm presenting and I may even spell a word incorrectly, during my presentation. I'm supposed to be the authority, but because English is not my first language, I might make a mistake. I said, well, then you get an eraser and you erase it and you say, gee, I don't know, I'm having a bad day. How do you spell this word? Or let me think of another word that can better clarify what I'm trying to say. Don't worry about people's judgments, because people are going to judge you anyway. Instead, think about your message, think about why you want people to have this information, and remember that there is a coach for you. There's a fit, there's a top for every bottle. So find the right coach. Hopefully it's me. Hopefully it's Keith. But that's
This
my
has
thought.
been Coach to Coach with Laura Van Larusso and Dr. K. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much.
Have a great evening, morning, afternoon. Bye.